Last year, I ended up building a compost tumbler to speed up the decomposition process. After trial and error, I think I've got the perfect formula for the tumbler. This year, I want to keep a batch of compost going at all times so I don't have to buy any compost, and then the plants can have as much nutrients as they need all growing season. In this video, I'm going to teach you guys how to make compost in a tumbler, and I did start this video in the summer and have been filming once a week just so you guys can see the full process. Now, stick around. I think you'll like what I got for you. Let's get into it. My name is Devin, the channel is Prepping to Survive, and I'm here to help you live a simple, healthy, and happy life. This channel is about gardening, improving your gardening skills, and being prepared for anything that the future throws at you. If that's something you guys are into, then consider hitting that subscribe button and that like button. And I also really appreciate the support, guys. Now, let's get into the video. When you make your own compost, you recycle kitchen scraps, leaves, grass clippings, and a bunch of more organic material, but then the compost becomes free and it's extremely good for your soil and your plants. You'll get a lot bigger harvest out of your growing season. Before we begin, there are a few things you guys should probably know. So the ideal carbon to nitrogen ratio should be around 30:1. At a 30:1 ratio, the decomposition process rapidly accelerates as thermophilic bacteria forms, and your pile of compost can heat up over 130 degrees Fahrenheit. The second thing you guys need to know is what organic material has carbon and nitrogen. In this chart over here, you guys will see the most commonly used composting material and the ratio between carbon and nitrogen. Now that you guys know the 30:1 rule between carbon and nitrogen, you guys will need to look around your area and figure out what organic material you guys can throw into your compost. In my area, there's always a bunch of leaves on the ground in the fall, so I'm able to collect a bunch of garbage bags, stock up on all the leaves, and use them in my compost tumbler as I need them for my browns. So in this video, when I refer to browns, I'm referring to carbon, and when I'm referring to greens, I'm referring to nitrogen. With the compost that I'll be making in my tumbler for this video, the browns are going to be leaves and the greens are going to be food waste. The leaves are going to be a 60:1 carbon to nitrogen ratio, and the food waste is going to be a 20:1 nitrogen to carbon ratio. To keep the 30:1 ratio, I would divide my 60, which would be my leaves, by my 20, which is my food waste, and that gives me a 3. That means I would put 3 times more leaves than food waste in my compost tumbler. If your carbon is too high, your decomposition slows down, and if your nitrogen is too high, then your compost pile will start smelling and it'll become a slime kind of texture. To further speed up your decomposition process as well, cut your organic material into smaller pieces before you throw them into your compost tumbler, and that'll increase the surface area for the microorganisms to work with. The one thing I'm going to be improving this year is adding a second compost tumbler. With only having one compost tumbler, I kept adding organic material to that same pile instead of having 2, where I add compost to one pile, let it sit, then start adding to the second one. It's not really the end of the world, but in the spring when I want to use the compost, I'm going to have to empty the compost tumbler, find the bigger chunks of organic material or non-decomposed material, and throw it back into the compost tumbler. It's just much easier if you have two different piles. I will be building a compost bin instead of a tumbler in the spring. Stay tuned. Now that you know what is going to be in your compost and the ratio, time to start adding the organic material into your compost tumbler for the best success rate. For this video, I'm going to be using leaves, straw, and food waste in my compost tumbler. How I do it is I layer everything in my compost tumbler before I spin it. So what I'm going to be doing is taking 6 handfuls of browns and 2 handfuls of nitrogen. Whenever I start a fresh batch of compost, I always put the browns in first on the bottom so it catches any excess moisture from the greens. After I've put each layer into my compost tumbler, if the organic material isn't wet at all, isn't moist, then I'll take a hose and I'll just lightly mist the top layer, and that'll promote microorganism growth. I'll repeat this layering process until my compost tumbler is about 80% full, and then I'll give it a couple spins, and that'll mix all the browns and the greens in together, as well as the water that you've sprayed in between the layers. A couple things you guys should keep in mind is every other day, you should spin your compost tumbler about 5 times. That'll allow oxygen into your compost mix, and it speeds up the composting process. That's it. That's pretty much all you guys need to do to make compost in a tumbler. If you guys don't have a compost tumbler yet, then I made one in a video. I'll link it right here. I think it would cost me around $110 total. It's using a 55-gallon drum. And if you guys aren't looking to build your own compost tumbler like I did, then I'll link to some of my favorite composting tumblers in the description below for you guys to check out. If you guys are starting your compost pile for the first time, then you'll want to add finished compost, healthy soil, horse manure, or you can buy compost activator online. If you don't add anything to the fresh compost pile, then the decomposition process will take much longer. Here are a couple extra tips to make you guys compost better. So after each batch in your compost tumbler, don't clean the tumbler out, just leave it as is. Just take your compost out and then start a new one without cleaning anything. The easiest greens are grass clippings, food waste, or plant trimmings. The easiest browns are black and white newspaper, straw, or leaves. I hope this video helps you guys make some killer compost this year and you guys get a great harvest out of it. Thank you guys for watching. Until next video. I got the straw off of Facebook Marketplace. It was from a guy that had a bunch of rabbits and didn't need the straw anymore. If you look hard enough, it's pretty much spending your time on Facebook Marketplace. You'll eventually find good organic material that you can use in a compost tumbler. You pretty much use your time to find free composting material.